Today, we're very happy to have Dr. Patrick Quaid. He's an author of Learning to See, Seeing to Learn, Vision, Learning, and Behavior in Children. He's also at the View Vision Therapy Clinics in Guelph and North York, Ontario. Also joining us today, Matthew Turton, who is the Director of Breakthroughs in Learning in Waterloo, Ontario. Welcome, both of you.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
We all understand how important learning and reading is. Why are some of these challenges in learning and reading not regularly caught by either the school system or optometrists?
Well, I think a lot of them are. Certainly, you can look at the stats and see that a lot of them are caught, but a lot of them fall through the cracks for a variety of reasons. And I'll let Dr. Quaid talk about the optometrist side, but from the school side, for part of it, kids are really good at faking it. And a lot of them don't know how to express the fact that they're having difficulty. They may not know that other people don't see double. And for the first number of years, often it's a wait and see philosophy. So, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, we're saying, maybe they'll grow out of it. The school's telling the parent. And then often they don't just magically grow out of it. And then the panic button gets hit. Usually my calls spike grade 3, October, November, at that first parent meeting for a student in grade 3 where they've said, let's just wait. And then October, November comes and now it's time to hit the panic button. Personally, I'd love to see them as early as possible. Younger the better, because we can make such a big difference in their lives early on that they won't develop many of the self-esteem issues, self-image issues that come with feeling like a failure at school. And many people who are struggling to read feel just like that.
Yeah, so Matthew, I couldn't agree more. I think we see a spike in these referrals usually around grade 3, and to your point, that's usually when EQAO testing tends to come into play, certainly in Ontario. And I think what we typically hear is that the parents felt there was an issue in SK grade 1, and the teachers were unsure, and it was kind of that wait and see approach. Because obviously the younger you are, the wider the range of normal. So there's this false sense of, well, they might grow out of it and things like that. So from an optometric perspective, however, I think the OHIP covered exams are fine, the annual eye exams for general eye care. But as soon as you have a child that has an IEP or an individualized educational plan, or somebody who's had a concussion, you really need to do a nosedive into the visual skills, into the eye movement skills. And I think the travesty of eye care, we've fell victim to our own catchphrase, which is 2020's perfect eyesight. And of course, what that means is eyesight and vision are different. Eyesight means I can see size 20 font 20 feet away. Well, A, we don't read at 20 feet, and B, we have to move our eyes. We have to converge our eyes to track along the page. So there's a lot of visual skills. There's about 17 visual skills in total, and 2020 is only one of them. So, when somebody says I passed a routine eye exam, that's no ill comment on the doctors doing routine eye care, but the routine eye exam doesn't necessarily include a detailed assessment of eye movements and visual processing and things like that. So I think that's where there's a disconnect, where often we'll, for example, get a referral from an educational psychologist and they'll say, well, they had an eye exam done. So my next question then is, okay, was that a routine eye exam, or did they have a full binocular vision evaluation, or what we call a visual skills assessment, or a VSA? Because that's a very different assessment. And often in the paper that we published in 2013 in a medical journal, we actually showed that if you take 50 kids between age 6 to 16 that have an IEP in place for reading, and 50 control cases, the control cases have less than 6% incidence of eye teaming issues. The IEPs have approximately an 84 to 86% incidence of eye teaming issues. So there's a big difference between the populations depending on what you test. Blood pressure problems would be very rare if we didn't have a blood pressure cuff to measure the problem. So I think we have to make sure we're doing the right tests on these kids. And just like I do not expect my family doctor to be an oncologist, but I do expect him to be able to pick up on signs and symptoms of cancer and refer appropriately. I think in the eye care world, where we need to drift into that mantra where we ask the right questions, because a lot of the time I find in routine eye care, the right questions aren't getting asked. It's does your kid struggle at school? Are they thriving at school, or are they surviving at school? And just that basic question of whether does your child have an IEP in place can be very valuable.
I get this question from parents a lot, and one of my favorite responses is, why is my child struggling with reading? And is it just that they're not trying hard enough, or they haven't been exposed enough? And I like to use I don't even know where I got this quote from, but I heard it years ago, which is, if a child has all the skills to be successful at reading, you can lock them in a closet with a book and they will learn to read. And so if that's not happening, something is going wrong. And like Patrick said, 17 skills, visual skills, just to be able to do that process of reading. And then on top of that, you stack all the cognitive skills. So you've got things like vocabulary comprehension. Yeah, you can read the word, but do you actually understand the meaning of the word? And then you've got your ability to read between the lines of what the text is saying and extract meaning that isn't explicitly there, right? And then you've got sight word vocabulary. So how many of those words did you see and instantly know versus having to pause and sound out? And the more that you have to pause and sound out, that lowers your reading comprehension because you're starting to lose the forest for the trees. And then on top of that, how's your short-term memory? How's your working memory? How's your long-term memory? So if you read the book chapters 1, 2, and 3 today, on 2 days later, when you come back to read chapter 4, how much do you actually remember from chapters 1, 2, and 3? And if you are struggling with your long-term visual memory, it will kneecap your ability to do that book report. And so it's an entire almost ranking of skills that have to be all working together as a team. And if you've got some of them that are weak, even if some of them are very strong, it's very difficult to compensate.
And I think when you talk about sight words, that's absolutely true, because what I feel we do is we set the fertile soil. So we always say to parents, we don't teach children how to read. We teach the visual skills that are fundamentally necessary for reading to occur. Now, it's folks like Breakthroughs in Learning that can then take that fertile soil and grow the child's abilities from it. And I think that's what's really important, because sight word, if you think about the word yacht, I mean, YACHT. If you sounded that out, you get like yacht. It doesn't even make sense. And in the educational textbooks, it talks about something called, what's the phrase they used, is selective inattention. So you have to ignore the fact that what you're looking at is different to how you'd sound it out. And the only way you can do that is through visual memory. Because when I picture what a word looked like, because we always tell kids, if you struggle with spelling, sound it out, sound it out. Well, that's not of much use at yacht. So I mean, if I pick on Matthew right now and I say, hey, Matthew, spell station for me, go ahead.
STATION.
Now try it going backwards. Tricky, but try it.
Oh dear. NOITATS.
Yeah, you got it, right? So when you're looking up, you're what are you trying to do? Are you trying to picture it in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is visual memory in the living flesh. That is what it is. So folks who don't have good visual memory because their eye teaming is off, they typically won't do that up and to the left or up and to the right, staring 50 feet. They will tend to look down and you'll see their mouth moving because they're trying to sound it out in their head. So they spell it phonetically. So kids that do not have good visual memory skills because their eye teaming's off, because if every time I look at something, it looks different, it's going to be really hard for me to store that, because the brain says every time it comes in, it looks different. I'm out. So that visual memory skill is really crucial. And that's one of the visual processing skills that emerges as the result of having good eye teaming skills. And to Matthew's point earlier about putting a kid in a closet to read, and if they have all the skills, they'll read. I always kind of joke with parents and go, it's not like you wake up one morning and all of a sudden, boom, I'm able to read. There's all these sequence of events that have to occur prior. And it's like building a house. Each structure has to be put together in the right sequence. And if one is missing, you're going to get a collapse of that floor. And that reduces the overall ability of the child. So I think that's a great discussion.
Matthew, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about what you do at Breakthroughs in Learning and some of the things that make it an interesting place both to work and the kind of things you can do to help children and others as they develop their skills.
Absolutely. Well, it certainly is a very interesting place to work. No 2 days are the same. No two clients are the same. And I've been an educational therapist now for 21 years, which sounds bizarre to say aloud, but I love it. It's everything that I ever wanted to do since I was a little kid. I grew up with learning challenges and I got the help that I needed, and it changed my life. It really, truly did. I can't overstate the difference that it made in my life. And I knew right then that this is what I wanted to do for every other kid that I could ever possibly meet. And I've met a lot of kids over 21 years. And we help children from, kindergarten all the way through senior citizens with a variety of challenges, everything from quite significant challenges like a global developmental delay or mild intellectual delay, all the way over to really wildly gifted intellectual people who just want to push the limits of what's possible. And they treat us like a gym for their brain and go for gold, as it were. And we work with a variety of challenges. People sometimes think, well, can you help me with my math or can you help me with my reading challenges, which we've been talking about a lot today. But it's far more complicated than that. We have so many different cognitive skills, and it's never just one. I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of profiles I've looked at, but I can't remember a single profile where it was just one skill that was the problem. It's this one combined with this one equals this symptom that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. And a lot of people come to us for academics, but a lot of people come to us for challenges at home too. Listening comprehension, short-term memory. If you have both of those problems, you're going to be in trouble a lot because you didn't comprehend what mom and dad asked you to do, or you forgot what mom and dad asked you to do. And so you're going to spend a lot of your life maybe in timeout, maybe getting in trouble constantly. Mom's frustrated, kids frustrated, and that affects the whole house, right? Just that low cognitive skill affects the whole house. And so we have a lot of dynamics that we help people out with there. And we do some visual screening as well as part of our assessment, which is great because if that gets red flagged, then we go, hey, Patrick, can you help this young man out? And like we were talking about when we were talking about collaboration, I don't have every single tool that Jimmy needs to lead a well-rounded, successful life. He needs his parents, he needs his teachers, and he needs whoever else he needs on Team Jimmy to help him be successful. We've got 12 people here on staff, and it goes far beyond that. We can't support all the needs of everyone that we see. We need other people with their specialties to come in for visual eye teaming to support reading. And it goes way beyond reading. People think that you just help people with reading, but it affects so much of day-to-day life. And we need sometimes counseling, and we need tutors. And, we form a team to support each one of our Jimmies.
Dr. Quaid, why don't you tell us a little bit about the work that you do in your clinics in Guelph and North York, Ontario?
I like to say that we empower people and unlock human potential. And the reason why I say that is we're doing it through the visual system and obviously through patients who have eye teaming issues and eye focusing issues. But part of that message is making sure that we're able to bring out the best in every patient that we see, that we make them aware of their own potential and where their strengths and weaknesses are. And obviously we will deal with the visual things, but we try to bring in people from other perspectives when we require them. So being able to help that patient to realize where their difficulties are coming from, if it's from a visual standpoint. And we also are unique in a way that we are also a research clinic, and we actually get a grant from the Canadian government as well, where we collect data as we're treating the kids. So the real cool part is I kind of get to be an academic and a clinician at the same time.
We've been joined today by Matthew Turton, who is the Director of Breakthroughs in Learning in Waterloo, Ontario. And of course, Dr. Patrick Quaid, View Vision Therapy Clinics in Guelph and North York, Ontario, the author of Learning to See, Seeing to Learn, Vision, Learning, and Behavior in Children. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.